Welcome, everyone. We'll go ahead and get rolling in just a minute or two. Give a minute here for the last few folks to join us here, and we'll get started here shortly. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you again for joining me for another installment in our webinar series. I'm Kevin Meeker. I'm the Director of Business Development at ASK, and this week's topic is going to be phishing. Are your employees aware? We'll go into some phishing emails and talk through some of the keys to look for, things of that nature. Before we dive into the content matter, though, I do want to just kind of go through a few housekeeping items. We are recording the webinar here. We'll be posting this to our resource page on our website afterwards. So if you find some good content here and like to share it with others within your organization, normally it takes about 24 hours, but sometime tomorrow, more than likely, this will be posted up to our the resource page at justask.net. Just click on resources in the top menu bar and you'll be able to find it there. Also, we'll be doing any question and answer via the chat. So please post your questions in chat throughout the webinar, and then I'll review them at the end, and I'll do my best to answer them as best as I can. This demo is live. I won't be doing a whole lot of bouncing around today, but just bear with me in case I run into any technical difficulties or little glitches. We'll get through them, but just bear with me. And then just a heads up, the content here is a little bit different. I was able to take a lot of what we use for our training for our enhanced security within our enhanced security services division, the training that they do with our client base. So I was actually able to steal a lot of slides from them. So this will be a slightly different format than the last few webinars we've done. And I'll bring this up now. Kate, if you're on, this is going to be review for you, so you're certainly welcome to stay, but you'll have seen a lot of this as it's some of our more recent training material is included in this webinar. So with that, we'll go ahead and get the ball rolling and kind of go through the agenda and what we'll talk about today. Now, today we're going to talk about phishing, and then we'll also touch briefly on avoiding fraud and go through your role in security. And then, as I said, at the end, I'll make sure I review the chat and answer any questions that get posted there to the best of my ability. I also reserve some time after these if you would like to have a quick conversation. My contact information will be at the end. I'll be happy to just chat with you about your specific concern. So with that, we'll go ahead and dive in. So what is phishing? So we're going to go into that in detail here in the next slide. We're also going to give you some tips and tricks on how to identify phishing emails. And then by all means, what to do if you happen to fall for a phishing email. There are, there's the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. And, we'll go through, those various items and give you kind of some best practices on how do you report it? What should you do if you feel like you've fallen for one of these? So we'll touch on that as well. So what is a phishing email? A phishing email is, by definition, it's a fraudulent email disguised to look legitimate. And they can come from anyone. They can look like anything. I mean, some of these people are getting really good at creating phishing emails, so they look just like an email that came from a legitimate source. There are some commonalities beyond just the way it's addressed and things like that that you can look for. Within a phishing email, there's almost always some level of familiarity where they show that they're familiar with you or your organization, or try to play on the fact that you're familiar with them. They'll often use authority. I'm your boss, I'm in a meeting and I need you to do this for me right now. Things like that. Also urgency, we need this done right away. Again, this is to keep you from being able to check on things, to be able to look into it further, to get a second authorization. Because if you're able to get that second authorization, you probably wouldn't get that authorization. And that's why they institute some urgency in these phishing emails to try to get you to act right now before you have a chance to look into it further. And in general, it requires you to perform some kind of action. You may have to go log in, you may have to go do something. So these are some of the commonalities within a phishing email. So again, they can look like they can come from anyone and look like anything. So, what do we look for? Well, we look for some of these items, and there's no magic bullet here. It's a combination of items that we need to look for. So here are some clues that you can look for in a phishing email. The greeting is very generic. You might use your email address. My name is Kevin Meeker. My email is kmeeker@justask. If I'm greeted with a generic greeting of K Meeker, we have XYZ for you, I'm going to be very skeptical of that email. No one greets me in an email with my truncated first initial last name email address. If you look at the address of the sender, on the sender, it could be incorrect. You could see the recipient or to field could be wrong. The links in there just don't look right. If you hover over a link and it's supposed to take you, as an example, to your Microsoft Office or Microsoft 365 login page, and you hover over that link and it's some, long drawn out URL that ends in .eu or .ra, and that is not going to take you to a Microsoft site. So if you hover your mouse over a link, you can find where it's going to take you. There's a lot on familiar brand association. I've seen a lot of these. Click here to claim your free iPad or your AirPods or things of that nature to get your new Galaxy tablet. Click here. No one is giving away brand new electronics without getting something in return, and it might just be your information that they're after. So look for suspicious attachments. Did you expect an attachment? Is it an attachment that does the person who sent this to you normally send attachments? Again, does it look right? Just be a little more critical. This one is becoming less and less common because spelling and grammar can be fixed with software nowadays, but still spelling and grammatical errors are, these phishing emails are rife with them. Often they're composed by people from outside of the United States and they don't know the ins and outs of American English. And so there could be some very substantial spelling and grammatical errors that, can clue you off. And then also, again, that unreasonable sense of urgency. You need to do this right now. Very, very rarely are you going to get an email from somebody in your organization where you need to do something immediately. And if you do, it's just to pass on information and they're going to call you and say, hey, I know this is, bad timing, but I need to have this done in the next hour. I just sent you an email with the details. If there's this sense of urgency and you're not sure, ask. Reach out to the person who you think sent the email to you. So with all of these clues in mind, we're going to go to and show you a few phishing emails that we've seen, and then we'll go through and kind of highlight some of the items that that raise some red flags. So you can see here we have a message center sync error. Oh, something's broken, something's wrong. Your server has delayed delivery of 12 messages. Oh, that's a problem. If I didn't get this out, I had the last 12 emails didn't go out, that could be a problem. So there's some urgency there, and powered by MS Corporation. So, I think you can see a substantial number of clues here, but as we go over this, let's take it to the highlight here. First of all, if you look at the URL of where they sent it from, this is obviously has nothing to do with Microsoft. As I mentioned earlier, jsmith@smithco.com. Even if that's your email address, very rarely are you addressed that as a greeting for an email. Normally they would, hi John or Jeff or whatever the J happens to stand for here, or worst case, Mr. Smith. But very rarely are you addressed by your email address. Now, if you hover over this link here, you can see there's a very suspicious email or link here that obviously is not going to Microsoft. and then powered by MS Corporation. Again, they're trying to use that familiar name of the Microsoft company, which is often truncated to MS, to get you to think that this is legitimate. So now we'll move on to a secondary clue here. This one's got some attachments. Here's looks like we're picking on John Smith from smithco.com here. But I'll let you look this one over here real quick, and then we'll talk about a couple of items here. Well, first and foremost, something that would concern me here is this is a forwarded purchase order. It's from me or from John Smith, okay, at Smithco. Received this PO on Friday from a senior vice president, from Bill Williams to John Smith. Here's a PO number, invoices past due, and we have an attachment. So again, we got some urgency, invoices past due. There's a PO number here. This is definitely something that you'd want to correlate in your own systems. But first of all, here we got John Smith at smithco.com is not the original sender. Again, we've got some urgency here. And then if we click on the link, it takes us to this. More than likely, this is a fraudulent email. So this is something that I would, if I were anyone here, I would reach out to the person who sent this and ask, hey, did you forward this purchase order on to me? This doesn't quite look right. And again, just a simple follow-up via phone or known communication mechanism. So this is an example of a landing page that something will take you to. Normally you'd just expect this file to open. Well, this file isn't actually a PDF file. It's taking you to this landing page where they're trying to steal your credentials. And if you were to click on this, it would then ask you to put in your login credentials. And again, it's asking for your professional email login credentials, which if this was an Adobe file, it should be asking for your Adobe login. Or bringing, if this was real, it would just bring up your Adobe Reader that you have already installed in your computer, and you would be able to view that attachment. So another example of a bad landing page. Here's one that we've seen on a number of occasions. This looks like your Microsoft sign-in page. But if you look up here in the URL, you see this has absolutely nothing to do with Microsoft. So this is a credential harvester. This is one where they're trying to get your sign-in, your username, and your password for your Office 365 or Microsoft 365 account, and hope that you have some level of access that can be exploited. This is certainly one that you can navigate to on your own. Portal.office.com will take you to this login where you can view and access this information. But again, this is a big one, and one of the best ways to protect against this is multi-factor authentication. Even if you did fall for this, put in your email address, put in your password. Without your multi-factor authentication key, which is the app on your phone or the text message or the call you get from Microsoft, without that being directed at the person at very-questionable-website.tw, they still, even with your username and password, would not be able to access your account because your two-factor authentication would pop up. You look at it and say, I didn't try to log in, go ahead and deny that. So that is that other layer of protection, even if you were to fall for something like this. Because unfortunately, with the exception of the URL here, this looks 100% legitimate. This is certainly something that I would expect to see when I go to portal.office.com to log into my Microsoft account. So they can be very, very good at obfuscating these and making them look like legitimate websites. So just keep your eyes open. Look at those address bars. So where is this site actually taking me? So here's another example of a PDF. So here is, again, another email from two people within Smithco for a remittance report. And it looks like they're looking at a link. Now, first of all, if this is common practice for you to be getting links from your colleagues to documentation, it's a little strange. Most of the time it's going to be a Microsoft Teams link or a SharePoint link. It's certainly not going to be a tiny URL link. So that's one of the big red flags here is Very rarely are you going to get a tiny URL or a truncated URL as part of an internal link to an internal document. So you'll also see here with this one, another big red flag, zip files. Zip files in general are something that always be very cautious, always be skeptical of. There's so many things that can be zipped up and tucked away so that your virus protection, your anti-malware, anti-ransomware software can't see it. This one, should you have been expecting a zipped document from this user or from this person? If the answer is yes, then you may want to follow up with a phone call just to make sure. If the answer is no, then you definitely want to follow up with a phone call to make sure. A big thing for, from all of these various emails is if something looks fishy, it probably is. Confirm. Find another way to confirm. And no, replying to the email that you're concerned about is not an appropriate way to confirm, because that reply is probably going back to the bad actor, who can then tell you that, no, everything's fine, go ahead and open this. So if you need to confirm via email because you have no other way of doing it, at least start a new email chain, compose a new message, use a known good address for the person that you think sent this to you. Ask them if they sent you a zip file. Ask them about the email. So email behavior, things to look for. Was I expecting the email? Does it have attachments and links that I was expecting? If not, then maybe that link, maybe I'll go ahead and browse to the site, browse to the website, go to my internet browser, go to that website on my own instead of clicking on the link. Check that email authenticity. Look at this to who it was sent from to. Are there any red flags there? And look for your phishing clues. Like we talked about at the earlier on. All those various little things, grammatical errors, urgency, things like that. If there are a bunch of commonalities there, more than likely this is a phishing email, and it's something that you need to take with a grain of salt. Look at it a little bit more closely. Once again, very, very rarely are you going to need to act on something so urgently via email. Most people know that email is not something that people jump on and take care of within seconds. If they need something urgently, they're going to find another way of making that request from you if it's a legitimate request. So now I'd like to move on just a couple of other fraud items here that I did want to just review and take a couple of minutes to go over. One that we've seen here and there, it was real common, it waned for a while, it's starting to come back. Some of these spoofing or even sextortion schemes. This is actually an email that somebody that we take care of received, where basically they're saying that this bad actor here is saying that he got access to your device months ago and has been recording videos of you doing horrible or going to bad websites and doing naughty things. And for the cost of $2,000, he'll make sure he deletes those videos and don't go public with them. This is a straight up extortion scam. They don't have the videos. If you click on those links that he provided in the email, they're just going to install malware or ransomware into your device. This is a very common one, and this hits you right to the core of things that the last thing anybody wants is somebody at their office thinking they were using a work computer not only for personal use but for questionable personal use. So this is not something that gets talked about very often. This is not something that people will bring up to IT on a regular basis. So the bad actors feel that this is a good way to hit you. So some of them, again, some of these, the sender can look real or look fake. They often, almost any one of these is going to request some kind of payment, provide links to what they're calling their evidence, which is just a link to download and install a piece of ransom or malware. And then they give you additional communication, a way to communicate with them, whether sending Bitcoin to this address, things of that nature. So this one again is asking you to go out and buy $2,000 worth of Bitcoin, wire it to this Bitcoin wallet, and pay them off so that they can then get rid of it. So that they will no longer show this. So again, they don't have a video of you watching adult content. They're just trying to steal $2,000 from you. So another one we've seen going around is the gift card scam. This is an interesting one as well, where your quote unquote boss will send you an email asking you to do something discreetly for you. I'm in a meeting, I can't talk, so just reply back to me. If you look at this, I know that my boss, Mike Maddox's email address is not ichingo174@aol.com. So that's my first clue right here. Secondarily, Mike is not normally one to ask me to do something discreetly for him. And certainly he very rarely would ask me to do something discreetly from a meeting that he can't talk about. So the likelihood of this being legitimate is very, very, very low. And the fallout, if it happens to be legitimate, is also very low. And so this is definitely one that I would be reaching out to Mike on immediately. Hey, Mike, I know I'm sorry. I hope I didn't interrupt your meeting, but I need to ask you about this. This is another very common one where a boss will email someone, or a bad actor will email someone in a role that is probably the one to acquire, an HR role of some sort, probably one to acquire giveaways, whether it be a prize for a contest within the company, whether it's something to give away at a trade show or an event or something of that nature. So they'll pretend like they're the boss and act like the boss forgot to get these things ordered and the trade show's coming up and he needs these right away. So here's this, Josh, can you get this done right away? I need Apple iTunes gift cards, need 20 of the $100 cards. You might have to go to different stores to buy them because they might not have all 100 at one. And then they want you to scratch off the back, reveal the codes, and email me the codes or send pictures. Somehow this is really, really urgent. So I'm not, again, this is one of those, engage your brain, think about it. Why would my boss need $2,000 worth of iTunes gift cards right now? Again, the likelihood of that person needing that is very, very low, but you'd be amazed at how good these are getting. And some people are, pardon me, quite fearful of their boss or their supervisor and are afraid to ask. If that's the case, you need to ask as the staff member. And then if I happen to have any supervisors or bosses on here, be gentle with your reportees if they ask and you really did ask them to do this. They're just concerned for, making sure that they don't get scammed. So this is, again, something that, we're seeing all kinds of variants on this sort of thing. So keep your eyes open for it. So some of the big things, what is your role in security? What are the things that you can do? Be vigilant and consistent. Pay attention, check your emails, make sure your passwords are up to date. Look at your interactions with your staff. Again, just be vigilant. Pay attention. When in doubt, ask. Yeah. You see what I did there? You certainly can call us or anybody in the organization that IT focused. People do make mistakes. It happens. You could inadvertently click on a wrong link, sure, in a hurry, and then you think back, man, I don't think that was legitimate. That mistake was an accident. If you keep quiet about it and don't report it, that's not an accident. If you clicked on something and you think even, tomorrow, I'm not sure about that, please, please, please report it. The average amount of time that a nefarious actor can sit in a network after he's compromised it is more than 100 days before he takes action. Most of these people are out looking for the opportunity to strike when it's as lucrative as possible. Get in the middle of that quarterly wire transfer. Get in the middle of that, big push of profit sharing checks that go out. Things of that nature. They're not looking for, $20 here, $100 there. They're looking for the patterns and to understand how your organization works and how they can step in on that, again, that quarterly dividend payment of, $2 million, and how they can then swap out the account routing numbers and reroute that money to some bank you can't get it back from. That's what they're really after. Now they'll take the little stuff, but they're in there looking for the big things, and they're often will sit very, very quietly, undetected for months before they strike. So that's why it's so important. If you think you fell for something, report it. And those managers and supervisors I have on here, don't be too harsh with people. Now, if it's the 12th time they've done this, okay, yeah, you probably need to do something, but don't beat somebody up over a mistake. It happens. People are trying to do their jobs. They're trying to be as efficient as possible. But please contact IT or a supervisor. If you think you came across one of these, if you fell for one of these, bring it up. Don't keep quiet about it. A couple of last closing things. I wanted to just go through a couple of little details here. Just some tips and tricks here. I'll leave this slide up for a couple of minutes. Staying secure while traveling. Just some good ideas, good suggestions. I mean, as an example, save your vacation posts when you get home. Don't advertise to everybody on your social media networks that you're on vacation and you're out of the country for the next 2 weeks, and a simple, plain old door lock is the only thing keeping people from your home. Don't leave your electronics in check bags or leave them at hotel rooms. I mean, those things are accessible by the maid staff. People in the airport can get a hold of them. They can copy them. There's lots of information that you have about you on your electronic devices. Keep them handy. Down here, use a PIN or a password on your mobile devices. Some kind of way to lock your mobile device. Don't just swipe and you're in. Again, most people have their banking password saved on your mobile device. And if I can just swipe open your mobile device and then click on your banking app to have full access to your banking site, that's a little dicey if you lose your phone or leave it behind or something of that nature. So, just some tips and tricks here, and then some other things on social media. One of the big things, use different passwords for each social profile. If you've got LinkedIn, Facebook, some of the others, don't have the same password for all of them. By all means, use a different password for each one, because you never know, somebody accesses your Facebook account. The next thing they're going to do is try to log in your Instagram, your Twitter, and your LinkedIn with that same password. Don't give out too much personal information. You'd be amazed at how many of those security questions that people you have to answer if you block yourself out of your account can be answered by just people trolling your social media sites and learning about you. Oh, your first dog's name was Muffin. I'll file that away, because that's probably one of the security questions they're going to ask me. So things to be aware of, certainly keep the personal details out of social if you can. I know it's very easy to think you're safe there and to think that, nobody's nefarious, but at the same time, if you're on social media, try to keep it. You can be personable, but don't be too personal about things. Don't allow logins through social for other applications. Log in with my Facebook, not a good idea. And certainly don't share when you're away from home. That's, back to the traveling one. So, and, be mindful of clickbait. Don't click on links in your social that you're not sure where they're going to direct you to. They could take you to a malicious site that automatically installs malware. You never know. Or worst case, or even, not as bad, but, you could go to a site that all of your profile information gets harvested, and they start, doing some spear phishing attacks at you, trying to get more information. So again, just the things to be mindful for, things to be aware of. I mean, I hate to say this, but a slight level of paranoia is probably a very good thing in today's day and age. Everybody is not out to get you, but at the same time, there are enough bad actors and nefarious folks out there that we all need to be careful. So just taking that step back, looking at those emails, who is they from? Who are they to? Is this something that I expect from this person? If I get a random email from a random person with a link and a attachment, more than likely, I'm just going to click delete on that without even opening the email. And, if they really need to get me something, they can send it again. So with that, I'll go ahead and wind this down. I hope you can join us in 2 weeks. We're going to be doing a deep dive into affordable cybersecurity solutions for every business. So we're going to go through the various cybersecurity solutions that are out in the market and talk through the various levels of affordability, because there are some that are not overly expensive that do a fairly good job. And then, if you need the Fort Knox style cybersecurity solutions, those are quite expensive. And then how do you identify what level of security do you need for your organization? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open this up to questions. Just a reminder, my phone number is there as well as my email address. I do reserve some time after these webinars to be available for any questions or answers. If you have any specific questions around your organization, things that you could do, particular compliances that you're under that you need to make sure that you're meeting, feel free to just reach out to me to talk to me specifically about those. I'll do my best to answer them. I may have to drag in my security guy depending on what compliances you're talking about, but happy to do that. So at this point, we're going ahead reviewing the question and answer, and I don't see a single question in Q&A. So certainly if somehow I missed one or it just didn't post for whatever reason, or if one comes to mind afterwards, my email address is right here, kmeeker@justask.net. Please feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. I'm happy to chat with you about today's topic. But with that, I'll let everyone get to their day. Thank you very much for attending. Really appreciate it, and I hope you found some of this information useful. So thanks again, and we'll see you here in a couple of weeks.